Matt Walsh probably doesn't get any, and he doesn't want you to either.
If conceiving a child would be disastrous for you, you believe, then do not participate in activities that literally billions of times in the past have resulted in the conception of a child. If reproduction would be a disaster for you, you believe, then do not participate in the reproductive act. That's all. If you're able to reproduce and yet reproduction would be a catastrophe, then do not participate in the reproductive act.
Well, hey, ladies, that's it. I mean, you heard Matt Walsh. Just don't have sex. That's it. Yep. How about you stop telling people what to do with their own bodies, you fucking weirdo creeps? How about that, right? Look, I'm tired of people like Matt Walsh telling others what to do and then claiming to be pro-freedom. All right? Especially since these are the same people that cried about being asked to wear a mask out in public during a pandemic. Suddenly now, my body, my choice doesn't really apply. But okay, let's talk about what would happen if women decided to not have sex for fear of pregnancy in the world that Matt Walsh wants to create. Well, for one, men would lose their shit. You're telling them not to have any sex. What do you think is going to happen? There's going to be a lot of frustrated people walking around, sexually frustrated. And besides, not only that, but again, you look at women. Well, women also in general like to have sex as much as any man does. But nobody seems to want to talk about that. Nobody wants to seem to talk about how normal the female sex drive is, and how, yes, women do have a sex drive, and how it's absolutely 100% normal to enjoy having intimate relations, how it's incredibly normal to do it. And look, I don't think it should be a punishment. But these right-wingers think that it should be. Oh, yeah, no, having a baby, which is supposed to be a wonderful, amazing thing, becoming a parent, these right-wingers want to make it a punishment for having sexual activity. So now he goes on to say, well, it's because we're not animals. We're able to control ourselves. Actually, we are animals, but yes, that said, of course, we do have self-control. That doesn't really help your point, though, because yes, that doesn't mean we don't enjoy sex. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't, especially since we do have contraceptives, especially when we do have, or we should have, the right to bodily autonomy. We should be allowed to enjoy those things. But understand what people like Walsh want to see, going back to it, is, again, where women specifically are punished for enjoying sex. Again, he's not talking about men, right? It's not talking about men. Somehow he thinks the men should be fine. And I'll go to where he actually says it would be better for loser men like himself to get an arranged marriage. But first, I just want to mention how he hates women and doesn't want them to have the freedom to choose. That's it. Again, for arranged marriages, so that women will have to be paired up with loser men against their will. This is exactly what he said. Take a look.
Now, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum are arranged marriages. Instead of a boundless, never-ending buffet of options, a young person in a culture that practices arranged marriages will be assigned just one, and they don't even make the choice. Their families just pair them up and say, here you go. There's far less freedom and far less autonomy in a system of that sort, but it is without a doubt superior to our system. We would be happier. Every person in the dating scene right now would be happier if they were just matched up with someone against their will, actually.
Yeah, actually, no. Look, this guy, he's trying to be the poster child for, I guess, incels, which is hilarious, right? While also trying to say, oh, no, what are you talking about? I'm pro-freedom. I'm pro-freedom, even though I think people should be in arranged marriages by their parents. That is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Now, look, he's also said on the record that he doesn't like birth control. He says it's like poison. and that reproduction is basically, to him, the only thing that women are good for, and that it's feminism's fault that tricked women into thinking that there's more to life than being a broodmare in a forced marriage. That's who this guy is. That's who this guy is. He says, well, the act of reproduction, it's a superpower that only women have. And it's feminism that's getting women to see that as a burden. Really? Really? Again, women, okay. So look, we could talk about the economic issues of raising a child and how it does require a lot of dedication, a lot of resources, a lot of time, a lot of investment. And look, there's a lot of millions and millions of people who are like, let's make that investment, right? And there are some incredibly good returns on that, investment of time, and there's unconditional love, and there's many, many wonderful things about being a parent. But not everybody wants to be a parent, and nobody should be forced to be a parent. Just because you can reproduce doesn't mean you should be forced to reproduce. Okay? And so just because you can have sex doesn't mean that you should be forced into dealing with a pregnancy that you don't want. No, you should have access to birth control. You should have access to an abortion if you need it. Again, this guy's even against, I think, cases where there is rape or incest. So she didn't even choose to have it. And again, we don't even talk about the societal pressure, not just societal pressure, but look at some pressure inside of relationships. I've known women before that felt that they had to do those things with their partner, even though they weren't comfortable with those things, that they were coerced, into having intimate relations with somebody. Because there is that very real thing. But none of that, again, gets through the thick head of people like Matt Walsh, because at the end of the day, Matt Walsh is a goddamn pervert, a lunatic, and a disgusting person. Get out of people's sex lives. Stay out of their bedroom. Worry about yourself.